What's going on, everyone? Philly Insider, Hunter here. Got Drew with me. Phillies post game, another pod, another win. We didn't go live yesterday. Not much going on in the game, but we're going to talk about both games. We'll talk about yesterday's briefly, but Drew, we're sitting here after another win today, and we are back to 500. We've taken care of business. No shenanigans against the Nationals right now, which that has happened in years past at times. It happened in Williamsport last year too, where we just came out flat, didn't win the series. But we got our first series win of the season. Honestly, should have been against the Reds, but that's in the past. We're not going to talk about that anymore. And all I'm going to say to start off, Drew, is the bullpen haters have been a little bit quiet since opening day.
Yeah, the bullpen's been nothing short of phenomenal since opening day, other than Brogdon, obviously. So, I mean, I think I saw a thing yesterday that Soto and Strom, both of them haven't allowed runs this year. Or no. Yeah, Strom allowed no earned runs, right?
Strom since opening day.
Right. And Alvarado.
Soto, I don't know if Soto has all year.
Marte and Soto haven't at all this year.
Too.
Right. And Alvarado and Strom not since opening day. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's your big guys right there. So that's exactly what you want to see. I mean,
right.
If that's what you're getting out of them on a weekly basis, you're going to win a lot of baseball games. And
right.
Speaking of that,
Anthony's going to come around too.
Oh yeah.
I think he's going to be fine. But
yeah, I think
he's been a little bit concerning.
Yeah, he doesn't have like great command of a slider right now. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, I mean, speaking of that, if you can win, maybe 95 games now, you might win the division.
Yeah, exactly.
With the Strider injury.
Certainly going to be interesting to talk about with the Strider injury. I mean, that is a complete different story now. I mean, first thing you want to say on that is you never want to see anyone get hurt. You want to face every team at their best, and you want to see the best compete on the field. So really sucks for him. I mean, that's really unfortunate. You hate to see it, man. I mean, UCL damage, that is no joke. And that's probably Tommy John surgery. And I think every baseball fan has gone through something like that, right? Like I can't imagine there's a fan base who hasn't seen one of their players unfortunately fall to Tommy John at some point. And it sucks. It sucks because you're seeing some of the hardest throwing guys, some of the best throwing guys go down, unfortunately, because of it. So, yeah, but with that being said, I mean, obviously that does make the perspective of winning the division a little bit more hopeful for the Phillies. And yeah, they lost the first series against the Braves, but after this series, that's how quick things change. Like they're really not that far behind. The Braves lost a couple to one or two to the White Sox. I forget how many. I know they lost at least one, and the rest of the division is absolutely garbage. So you're pretty much in a two-horse race right now with you and the Braves. It's early in the season. That could change, but I just don't see any of the other teams. Like, I would say the Nationals have the best shot out of the other two teams. I'm being honest. I'm like dead serious. The Mets are a disaster. The Marlins are a disaster. The Marlins are definitely going to sell. The Mets knew they weren't going to be good this year. I think for them, it's just about how they come together as the year progresses and how they play in the second half. That's their hope is, they're going to have some of those young guys start to step up. So I don't think they're surprised, but the Marlins, I mean, I don't think they were expecting to win a World Series this year, but I don't think they expected to come out this slow. And now Perez also fallen victim to injury. So that being said, the Phils, I mean, look, if there was a year for them to put all their chips in at the deadline, it's this year. And now with the Strider injury, that's only going to be more like heightened, I guess you could say. This is their shot. And I think with that, like they said, they're going to save some powder for the trade deadline. I certainly think that this is going to be one of those deadlines where we see Dombrowski make a somewhat big move. I think people are hyping it up a little bit. I think they think he's going to make a really big splash, but the player has to be available for that to happen. So I don't know if I see that happening, but I certainly think you're going to see someone right below that tier of a superstar at the deadline coming to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on that because, I mean, like you said, the division is a lot more up for grabs now, especially with the Strider news, obviously. But, I mean, yeah, they have the prospects to get a big time player if they want to get it, and I think this is definitely going to be the year that they do it. Because in the years past, they've kind of just went for like middle of the road type players, like guys that are just role players and nothing like special. Like last year, they got Lorenzen. The year before, they got Syndergaard, and those guys are gone after the season. But you could probably see them get a guy this year that has team control for the next few years or something like that. Somebody that's going to be here for a while. That way you can get some return on your investment as far as prospects go.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And with that, do you want to talk about the Brogdon trade since I see we got a comment about that already?
Yeah, sure.
Well. We're talking about other news. So Brogdon was traded today. I was shocked, Drew. I was certainly not expecting us to get anything in return for him. So the fact that we even got something or that someone put in a claim for him was certainly surprising to me. It is the Dodgers, so I'm sure he will figure things out there and his changeup will look amazing again. That is to be expected. But also, I mean, the Phillies have brought guys in like Jeff Hoffman and they have fixed him up too. So it's not like he's just a guarantee to go there and figure things out. It's certainly a good spot to figure things out. And look, I did like Brogdon a couple years ago, so I do wish him the best. I don't have anything against him personally. It's just unfortunate how things worked out with him the past year and a half. But the Phillies do get back a left-handed pitcher. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. Benoni Robles. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. But there's some interesting stuff there, Drew. I don't know if you saw some of the stuff flying around on Twitter today. I mean, look, he's 22 years old. He's a left-handed pitcher, like I said. And he's in high A right now. He's a hard-throwing lefty who struggles with control. I mean, have we seen that before? Yeah, we've seen that with about every Phillies relief pitcher or pitcher that's come into the organization over the past 3 years since Dombrowski's been here. It's been hard-throwing guys who lack control and command. So I certainly am good with that.
Yeah, the Phillies are kind of playing their own version of Moneyball, getting these left-handed pitchers that can't throw strikes. So, I mean, they did it with Alvarado. They did it with Soto. I mean, Soto had pretty bad command control whenever he came here.
Yeah.
And he definitely kind of figured it out a little bit. He's like hit or miss, obviously, but, it's like he's been more than serviceable, I guess you could say. His ERA last year was not really indicative of how he pitched because he had just a few blow-up outings. And I think Robles could be that guy again. I mean, he could be like the three-peat, I mean, that'd be huge for us.
Yeah, and it's just good organizational depth to have too. He's in high A, I would imagine. I think he'll probably make it up to Double A at some point this year, unless he might just be going right there. I haven't heard word on that, but I would figure he's going to be in the high minor leagues at some point with us, like sometime soon. So that's exciting. I mean, and like I said, that's a guy. I would guess, is he going to be on the 40-man roster since we got him in that trade? Has that been announced?
I did not see that, no.
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure on how that's going to work. I don't know if someone did take – Pinto took Brogdon's spot on the 40-man, so I would guess there's not a spot right now. But
I think we did have an open spot, though.
Okay, so either way, it's good organizational depth, though. So, I mean, I'm very pleased with how that panned out. Brogdon needed to change the scenery. It wasn't going to work here. It's just how it was. But, guys, we got 13 people in here right now. We're going to be talking about the postgame. We talked about Brogdon and Strider a little bit to start out here. Keep dropping comments. We're going to get to all of them. And if you guys haven't, the Discord is pinned up at the top of the comments. And, yeah, subscribe. We're live pretty much every postgame of the season. And, yeah, just keep up to date. We're going to be keeping this up as the season goes on, and me and Drew are excited to do this. So just wanted to say that while we got you guys in here, and looking forward to talking more the rest of the stream. With that said, Drew, want to get to some of these comments before we get into the post game a little bit here? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about yesterday's post game too, and I mean, there's been very few. I would say there's been more games than not that we've had base running issues this year. So we're going to talk about that. But
yeah, and it feels like that happened last year too. Like early in the season, they had bad base running, and I don't really understand why. It doesn't really make any sense. Like they come to their own whenever the 1 month point passes or something like that.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what the deal is with that. I mean, the fact that there is a Twitter account dedicated to did the Phillies make a base running mistake today? I mean, that tells you all you need to know about the Phillies' lapses on the base paths. Nate, welcome in. Good to see you here all the way from Arizona. Says good bounce back series for the boys. Absolutely. They just took care of business. They're doing what they need to do. And could they have gotten more insurance both of the past couple of days? Sure. But they're getting the job done. And Sir says great to see the offense wake up on that front. Yeah, I mean, better. Would still like more out of them, but we will talk about that. Chris, welcome in. Good to see you in here from the Discord. Says Rojas getting ready to go on a 10-game hitting streak. What are your thoughts, Drew?
I mean, I don't know about a 10-game hitting streak, but he's definitely the last 2 days have been a little more encouraging from him for sure.
Yeah.
And the at-bats have been a lot better. But, I mean, today he put that ball in play and almost had him an RBI.
Yeah.
Almost had as many RBIs as he has hits on the season. But, yeah, I think he's definitely looked a lot better the last couple of days, and it's kind of encouraging. And I think the Phillies probably see it the same way at this point. So we'll probably just keep seeing him for a couple more weeks. And if things don't work out, then, he's going to go down probably.
Yeah, I still think he's taking a lot of hittable pitches in the zone, honestly, right now. It's just frustrating when you see 92 right down the middle or middle in or middle low, and he's just taking it and not even doing anything with it. And then like you said, I mean, that was the best contact we've seen him make all year today. So that is encouraging. There have been improvements, but I'm curious to see if there's a continual trend of those improvements over the next week or so. Because I still think at this point he needs to go down. But I think, like you said, the Phillies seeing some improvements here, I think they will keep him up a little bit longer as a result. See if he can continue to make that a trend. But Sir says, I'm excited to see McGarry and Abel contribute to the staff. They will be insane. Yeah, I'm excited for Abel for sure. I think he's definitely going to be up here at some point. McGarry, we'll see. He's in the bullpen right now in AAA. That's the best for him right now. But I do want to say on that before I let you talk, Drew, we did see Walker. He threw today, apparently. They kind of brushed over the fact on the broadcast that the velocity was still low, and Rob said that they were not concerned about the velocity. It was still low 90s for Walker. They said they were more concerned with how the ball was moving out of his hand. I get it. Like, I'm not going to make a big deal about the velocity on, him throwing today because he's still working back from the injury. But I just don't know if I foresee that changing anytime soon. And that's where he's been sitting for a while now. So that's kind of my issue with that. But anyway, that was a sidetrack from the comments Sir made.
Yeah. Kind of like talking about Taijuan a little bit. Like, it's nice to be able to look forward to all 5 starters because he's not in the rotation right now because, man, he terrifies me. I mean, he might prove me wrong this year, and I hope he does because we need him, and he's on a big contract, so he needs to play up to that. And, I mean, as far as McGarry and Abel goes, I mean, at this point, I think McGarry's kind of turned himself into a project for them because of what happened to him at the end of last year and in spring training this year. So, I mean, I don't really think we're going to see McGarry this year unless he has some kind of insane success down in the bullpen in AAA, which, I mean, it's very possible because he has really, really good stuff, and it would not shock me one bit. But, I mean, as far as Abel goes, that guy is, like, borderline MLB ready. And I think if you see, like, maybe, unfortunately, if one of Wheeler or Nola would go down, he would kind of maybe be the guy to step in because he has the highest ceiling of anybody that we have an option to get from the minors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I am very curious to see what happens with that. I think the goal with McGarry right now is to get him back to the rotation at some point. If he comes up in the bullpen sometime this year, that would be great. I mean, I would love that. But I kind of envision a guy like Max Castillo or Colby Allard being an emergency plan if needed. I certainly hope we don't get to that point because I wouldn't want to see that. But that's kind of the point. Like, you can't prepare for the injuries to where we do get to an Allard or Castillo. So, but with that said, I am excited for both those guys still. And Nerio, all the way from Italy, says he's watching yesterday's game too. We are going to go over yesterday's game, but Drew, I want to start with today's game and talk about that a little bit. I thought we had a very, very solid Ranger Suarez outing. Not his best outing, but certainly an above average one. And there was some hard contact, but there was also a lot of weak contact too. Got some Ks here and there, kept guys off balance, did what he does. Didn't really think it was anything out of the ordinary from the Ranger we've seen for so long now. I mean, I thought it was vintage Ranger, to be honest.
Yeah, like you said, just vintage Ranger. I mean, he was pretty much around the strike zone all day, and the only real blemish on his line was the Gallo home run. So, I mean, I guess you kind of take it with a grain of salt because Gallo, I mean, it's either strikeout or home run. So he just kind of ran into one there. But, I mean, yeah, Ranger, I mean, what you're getting out of that guy. He's really good. And it's kind of nice because we have 2 lefties in the rotation now that you can kind of rely on in Ranger and Sanchez because not a lot of teams have reliable left-handed starting pitching. And it's something you definitely need to be able to contend in the playoffs and be able to pull one of those guys out of the bullpen. So you definitely need Ranger to be this indefinitely. I mean, he's a huge part of where they're going this year and what they want to do. So that's pretty much all I got on Ranger.
Yeah, and like you said, Joey Gallo, he's going to do that from time to time. I mean, when he does it, he's going to hit the ball a long way, unfortunately. I mean, that's just who he is. But, I mean, unfortunately, like you said, Ranger ran into it there, but he settled in after that. And honestly, even when that happened, I wasn't concerned because he had been so good up to that point. And after that, he really didn't have any trouble either. And I want to talk about the bullpen a little bit, too. Just get your thoughts on Hoffman. Soto, again, only getting the one out, but against the lefty. And then Alvarado closing it out. Had some trouble with the strike zone there because of the umpire. Not sure what was going on. But point being, the bullpen did their job today.
Yeah, definitely. And let me bounce back to Ranger real quick. He was very, very efficient today, and that's when Ranger's at his best because he can go deep into games with his ground balls and all that. So that was really good to see. But as far as the bullpen goes, I mean, Hoffman, that guy needs an extension like immediately. He is so good. I mean, he is as close to lockdown as you can get for like a guy that's pitching the 6th and 7th inning. And I think by the end of the year, you're going to see him getting closing chances quite a bit because Alvarado hasn't quite been his lockdown self yet this year. I mean, he's been pretty good, but I don't know. It feels like he's been like around the zone, but it hasn't been super crisp. Like today, he looked pretty good, but before today, the last couple appearances, he's kind of been around the zone, but not in the zone as much as I would like to see. And I believe he pitched yesterday, right?
I believe so. He also
Yeah.
painted a good bit yesterday, but I feel like he hasn't gotten the calls the past couple of days
Right.
for a reason. But I think he's looked a lot better.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the season, he was like all over the place. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, like yesterday, it was kind of weird. He didn't throw like any cutters, I don't think. I don't know if it was because of the weather, or if he wasn't feeling it. I'm not sure, but I think he threw all fastballs yesterday. And if you want Alvarado to be the lockdown closer, you got to be able to throw both pitches. And I think that was kind of like concerning for me. I don't know why, but that's just what I took from yesterday. But yeah, I mean, as far as Soto goes, it's good to see him coming out and doing his job whenever he's asked to, even if it's only for one out. I mean, he's huge. He's a huge part of that bullpen. So it's exactly what you need.
I think Soto's role has been better to start this year. Last year he was put into some bigger spots that he didn't really handle the best at times, and that was when some of those blow-up outings occurred. I agree. I think he was definitely better than his numbers said. I think he got unlucky some of the time, too. I thought he threw a lot of good pitches last year. And I think this year they've done a good job of bringing him into that spot they brought him into in the NLDS last year in Game 4. Right before Strom closed it out, he got the one out versus, I believe, Olsen at the end of the 8th inning. And that's what you do today. You bring him in versus Gallo. That's exactly the spot I want him in. Big left-handed hitter up to bat. Get a lefty on lefty. Soto is going to do his job there. I feel pretty confident saying that Soto can get the one out versus the lefty. And then in a lower leverage spot in an earlier inning versus the worst part of the order, I think those are the other spots. I don't think he's a guy who's going to mow down the middle of the order quite yet. Could he get there? Sure. But I don't think that's what you're going to ask him to do. But because of the depth of this bullpen and the other guys we have, it is nice that Soto's kind of settled into, I think, a more fitting role for him for the time being. At least from what we've seen from him in his Phillies career so far, I think I think it's more than fitting for him to be in this role he's in right now. Hoffman, man, I mean, he almost went 2 innings today. That was awesome. And he kept his pitch count pretty efficient. Speaking of pitch count, going back to Ranger as well, he only threw 82 pitches today. I mean, that's awesome. Right. And he goes 6 flat. So that was awesome. I mean, that's really good for him to just keep that longevity for the rest of the year because he's probably going to pitch more this year than he has in his entire career. Because if he's healthy, just by sheer volume, he's going to pitch a lot. And he's never pitched, I don't think, a full season as a starter in the major leagues. So with that said, I mean, having Hoffman get those couple innings, that helps, preserve Ranger a little bit, but also preserve the other guys in the pen as well. Because Alvarado, he's definitely not available tomorrow. He threw a lot of pitches today. He threw 28. He threw 17 yesterday. You needed Hoffman to take down a little bit more today, and he did that. And he comes in with a runner on, and he just nails in those spots, man. I mean, if there's runners on base, I want Hoffman in that game. That's most of the time, that's going to be what I'm asking for. And yeah, like Ben says, I kept this up here for a while before we got to it, but you talked about it too, Drew. I mean, they got to extend him. I don't care that it's during the season right now. Like, you don't let that guy go into free agency. He's unbelievable. He's got 3 pitches that are all incredible. I mean, each of them could be some of the better pitches of those kinds among our league pitchers in baseball. That's not even an exaggeration. He's unbelievable. So they need to be prioritizing an extension for him above anything else right now, because like you said, I think he's going to close out games for us at some point. I don't know if he's going to be the de facto closer, but I certainly think he will be in a lot of big spots. And I kind of like him being the first guy out of the pen after a starter's out, because it's just kind of like, all right, let's just make sure we shut this down right now, especially if the top part of the order's up, or like I said, if there's a runner on base, that's the guy who won't come into that game. So even if it's a little bit earlier, then you might want to put him in. He can still do his job. And then today he goes into the 8th inning, even though he started out in the 7th. So he was awesome today. I think he gave up 1 base runner too. I mean, he's just awesome. I think he's my favorite Philly right now, if I'm being honest. It's been so fun to watch him develop over the past year or so.
Yeah, and I think the Phillies could probably get him for a little bit less than he would get on the free agent market, because he's probably he loves it here, and he's like, I was going to speak to his mentality. He has the mentality of a reliever. I mean, he just goes out there. He doesn't care who he's facing. He's just going to he's gonna throw pitches and he's gonna get you out. I mean, it seems like nobody can even touch that guy whenever he's going the way he wants to be. I mean, that splitter he throws is nasty. The slider's nasty. The fastball, it's like it rises. It's crazy. But yeah, I think they could get him for less on the margin than he would get on the free agent market because he's probably pretty grateful to them because of what they did for him, and I think he loves it here, quite frankly. So.
Yeah, and even if he didn't, I would pay him as much as he wanted to. Obviously, there's a line you won't cross, but I would give him whatever he asked for. To be quite honest, if the first price they put down in the negotiations is at least like reasonable, this is why I'm not a GM. I'd probably just sign the deal and be like, we want you around. Like we need you. I mean, he could legitimately go down as one of the more well-known like postseason relief pitchers in Phillies history. If he continues on this trend. Obviously, we're going to see how he does in the postseason this upcoming year, but just the stuff he has that type of potential to be that guy. I thought Alvarado, like, he really should have been out of that inning at probably 13, 14 pitches. He got absolutely screwed today. Before the past 2 games, like you said, he was not great, but I think he's coming into his own now. I think it was just kind of early season, still getting the feel of things, getting his feet under him. He was awesome today. Unfortunately, Bohm bobbles that ball too. Gets the lead runner. I'm not going to get on Bohm for that. He's been pretty good defensively so far. Made some really nice plays. Made a really nice barehanded play today. That was unbelievable. But it would be nice if we got the double play there after Alvarado just gets screwed on like multiple strike calls and we're trying to just preserve him. So, yeah, he's definitely not available tomorrow. But, I mean, look, the bullpen, 3 guys come in, 3 guys who knew they were going to do their jobs for the most part, especially Soto just getting the 1 guy. And that was that. It was awesome. So, very pleased with how they did today. I don't have anything else on the pitching. I do want to get to the lineup. I want to get your thoughts on the lineup, Drew. A couple of guys stood out today. Again, it's kind of just a couple of guys at a time carrying the load, it seems, right now. But however you get it done, however you get the win, that's all we care about.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best thing from today was obviously the JT home run. They intentionally walked Bryce to get to him, and he just throws up a big middle finger right to them. I mean, he probably felt pretty disrespected by that. So it was really nice to see. And he's on fire right now. He is playing really, really well. And he gunned that guy out at second base today. So that was nice too. I mean,
yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, he's fast. What's his name? Young?
Are you thinking of Nunez?
Nunez.
Dude,
Yeah.
I actually was very impressed with the throw he made back to first base to almost get Stott. He almost made a diving play on that too, and then the speed on the base paths. Like, he's impressive.
Yeah, he's a good little player for sure. But he hasn't hit for them this year at all. He has a 0 average.
I was going to say, he seems like that typical prototype of like, just kind of a base stealer and defensive wizard and has some of those tools, but not really the bat yet. So we'll see.
But yeah, the lineup, I mean, it was good to see Castellanos get off the schneid a little bit. So, I mean, other than that, it was more of the same from what we've seen throughout the beginning of the year here. And it's been Marsh, Realmuto, Harper, and Turner. And Schwarber actually had a bad day today, which is kind of crazy.
Definitely. It was more looked like regular season Schwarber or like early season Schwarber of the past 2 years than this year. He's been better to start the season outside of today. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about Schwarber. Obviously, you know exactly what you're getting out of that guy. And I mean, yeah, one bad game does not define any player ever. So it's definitely nothing to be worried about. But as far as the hitting goes, I mean, I think they're turning the corner a little bit here. And I think with the warmer weather coming, you're going to see some more slugging. So that'll be nice to see.
Yeah, and I thought Bohm had a good day too. Lane Thomas definitely did not play that ball very well in right field. But regardless, it's a hit. It does go down as a triple. He also gets a walk today too. So I like what Bohm did today. I think he's been Bohm so far to start this year. Like, he really hasn't been anything crazy, but he also hasn't been anything below what we've expected of him too. So Bohm has pretty much just done what I've expected him to do so far, and I'm very fine with that. And I like JT's response in the postgame when they asked him if he took any offense to the intentional walk. He said he doesn't want to get himself too worked up, and that if he thinks about that, he'll get like too excited or too, I guess he gets too worked up about it. If you play baseball, I guess that makes sense. Or if you played any sport, that probably makes sense. Or if you just had anything like, I don't know, anything where you wanted to prove someone wrong, you might start to lack focus a little bit and let the emotions take over, right? So I like that response from him. I thought the way he said that was very good, and he just went up there with his normal approach at the plate, and he did damage. And that was honestly what broke it open, and we didn't look back after that. So JT was awesome. He has been so good to start the season, man. I mean, he comes around to score twice today too, not just on the home run. He gets on a couple times, a couple nice hits there. I mean, like you said, that throw down to second base, I think you put it in our chat, Drew. 183 pop time. I mean, that's like when I see that next to JT at this point, like I'm not even surprised because I've seen that from him for so many years now. But it feels like he has been better throwing down to second base this year. There were some times last year he had some trouble getting the ball out of the glove. Maybe it was the new rules. I don't know what was going on there, but he's been a lot better in that regard so far. Really like what he's doing. Just at the plate, defensively, on the base paths, he's been mostly good too. Really can't complain about him to start this year. So I love what he's doing. And Stott goes 1 for 4 today, comes around to score too. Like I still think he's been really good even in the at bats where he's gotten out. Like most of them have been good at bats, quality at bats, and he's getting hard contact. Marsh again, only the 1 hit, but again, he's looked good. I mean, he's gotten on base in almost every game of these seasons so far. So he's been encouraging. Yeah, I mean, also Turner too. Turner was good today as well. I mean, he gets on a couple times, 38 stolen bases without getting caught now. He's coming up on history if he keeps that trend up. So that's cool to see. Yeah, I mean, the only negatives were really Schwarber and then Rojas. I mean, Castellanos, kind of a negative, I guess, at some points, but I'm not going to say that today when he went 1 for 3 with a walk. You know, he probably should have scored a run, but a perfect throw beat him, unfortunately, to home plate. And like we talked about with Rojas, there were some signs there today. And I still think he should be in the minors, but, you know, it's at least encouraging to see something better than what we've seen recently. So that, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I have on the lineup. Feel like, yeah, now that I look at it, it was a little more spread out than I thought it was today, which is encouraging because a lot of the games so far, and honestly, just if you watch Phillies baseball, it's, you know, whoever's hot is going to try to carry us and maybe another guy or two. So it was good to see a lot of the hits were spread out. We had 9 hits. I mean, that's more than it's been a lot of 5-6 hit games to start the year. So it's a big difference from 9.
Yep. It's definitely good to see. And the offense needs to get going. And I mean, this team could go on a crazy run if the bullpen pitch is good and the offense is going good because the bullpen, they have legitimately 5 or 6 guys that are locked down at certain points throughout the year. So they could go on a crazy run.
Especially with the upcoming schedule in April, too.
And they're also going to be getting Kerkering back.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they said he's going to pitch Tuesday, Thursday, rehab, and then he's going to come back next weekend, hopefully. So, and he looks great. I mean, I think he just looked nasty. And our buddy of the pod, he's actually in the chat right now, Ben. He said the other night too. I thought he made a good point. It's crazy. He's like rehabbing. He's rehabbing in High A right now. Or Clearwater right now. And that's the guys he was facing not long ago. That's insane to think about. Like this time last year, he was facing those types of guys. Crazy to think about. So that's that's just really cool to think that we're a year later and Kerkering is like, all right, when's he going to be back on the roster from injury? It's not, is he going to develop enough to get on the roster, which I don't think anyone saw that coming. So been really cool to see that. Anything else on the game from today before we kind of shift to yesterday's game a little bit, Drew?
No, I think we got it all.
Yeah. I mean, look, yesterday, Knowles pitched well. The lineup did what they needed to. Harper was great. Revenge, obviously revenge tour in DC as usual. What do you got on yesterday's game, Drew?
I mean, just taking care of business. I mean, that's what you got to do against these bad teams because you don't get many opportunities against bad teams sometimes. Sometimes you go through rough stretches in the schedule, and these games against the bad teams and these stretches against the bad teams are when you got to win the games that you unfortunately won't win against the good teams because even no matter how good you're going, good teams are going to beat you at some point. And I mean, yeah, like I said, you just got to take care of business, and that's what they're doing. You got to win 5 or 6 on this road trip, and that's my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, and it would be. I know the bullpen's a little bit taxed, but they still have enough guys to win tomorrow's game. Like, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
So, and Pinto's going to be available again tomorrow. So, but on yesterday's game, look, I mean, as far as Nerio asking us about Nola, I mean, look, I thought he was great. Again, it's the Nationals. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Like, we know their lineup is not that good, but there's still some major league hitters in that lineup for sure. I mean, there are guys you got to be careful with, and he gives up 2 hits. He did walk some guys yesterday. Obviously, the command was not great. Nola, I think, is still getting comfortable for whatever the reason to start the season. His first start was obviously awful. But again, at the end of the day, he eats 5-6 innings for us almost every single start. And I'll take no runs from him. He didn't really have his strikeout pitch there yesterday either. Only gets 4, which is for him is kind of unusual. But I thought Knowles was fine. Again, I would like to see him improve. But for his second start of the year, I'll take 5 2/3 scoreless. I'm not really concerned about anything else. And as far as the rest of the game goes, too, yeah, like you said, just taking care of business. Schwarber was awesome yesterday. Had a couple of walks. He has a couple RBIs, too. And speaking of the walks, man, I mean, the Phillies just didn't do anything stupid at the plate. They took their walks. The Nationals were not throwing strikes. And all you can do is just be patient, take your base, and just let things develop from there. Now, with 9 walks, you would hope they get more than 4 runs. So that was a little disappointing. That being said, they won 4-0. So it is what it is. And the bullpen gave up 1 base runner. Between Strom, Dominguez, Alvarado. Alvarado was the only guy who put anyone on base. He walked a guy. And they were great. And Strom also wrapped around, which for him, that was a little bit of an issue last year. But he wraps around, goes 1 1/3. And they all struck out a guy too. So they got an easy out from that. I mean, look, there's not really much else to say on yesterday's game. Everyone did their part for the most part. Outside of the bottom of the order was a little bit lackluster, but I mean, I thought everyone was pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, Strom's velo actually kind of got back to normal yesterday, so that was nice to see. And I mean, I know that was something you were really concerned about beginning of the season.
Definitely. So just a tick down.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Sir Anthony, like you said. I didn't even see that part of the game. I might have been doing something, but it was good to see that he didn't allow any base runners, because if he can have a great year this year, I mean, that bullpen is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how anybody's going to get hits off of him, to be honest with you.
I'm with you, Drew. I mean, I don't got anything else to talk about from yesterday's game. I mean, I could talk about the walks all day long and who worked walks and who came in to score, but I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up. There's not only so much you can take away from a game like that, where it didn't really feel like the Nationals were very, very competitive, despite the score not being like a complete blowout. It felt like it probably should have been 8-0 yesterday. But that said, we can look to tomorrow before we kind of jump into a fun last topic. Chris Sanchez on the mound. Excited to see his second start of the year. 2 lefties going, so Mackenzie Gore will be going for them. He had his ups and downs last year at certain points. You know, obviously there is some potential there, but he hasn't been able to quite put it together yet. And Chris Sanchez on kind of an opposite trend, to where it feels like he's only gotten better over the past year. And you're probably going to – I would hope that we see Pache tomorrow. It's a day game. It's against the lefty. I think he will play tomorrow. Over who? That is the question. Marsh has had some rights. I mean, that sac fly, we should mention that. That sac fly he had yesterday against the lefty with bases loaded, I mean, he almost gets that out of the ballpark or for a double. I mean –
and the same one with today, actually.
Yes. Yeah, great point.
Yeah. I mean, they were both in the same spot. I mean, I was just about to talk about that a little bit. Like he has crazy opposite field power for being a little guy like he is. I mean, he's not muscular. I mean, he's kind of like sticks and bones. I mean,
right. Yeah. He's 6'4", but I mean, not that he's like not. Obviously they all got muscle, but I get what you're saying. That he's a little more lanky than other 6'4" guys. So
yeah, there's not many center fielders or left fielders, I guess it would be now, but he was a center fielder by trade, and there's not many of them that are going to be going opposite field like that, just that easy. I mean, it doesn't look like he's trying to go yard. He's just hitting the ball, and it's almost making it out. The one today would have been a home run in CBP, actually, so that would have been.
Yeah, I saw you did tweet that out. Yeah, correct.
I did. Yep.
I meant to mention that. Good point. And you said it would have gone out in like 4 or 30 ballparks, correct?
Yep, something like that. Yep.
But you're doing something right if you get into that part of the ballpark and hit it that well. So
yeah, it's good to see Marsh. I mean, he's been really good to start the year for the most part, and he's had a couple of bad at bats, but he's a young guy. He's still learning on the run here, pretty much. So good to see.
No, definitely. So I would like to see him play tomorrow in left. Still, I would like to see Pache play in center. Get the start there. I would imagine we might see Witt over one of Bohm or Stott tomorrow, just to give them a day off, since they're trying to mix Witt in as much as possible. I'll be curious to see where he plays. Maybe he'll play out in the outfield over. I don't really like when I didn't like when they did both Pache and Witt. I think they did that one game. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think so.
They were both in the lineup, and I don't know. I just feel like you lose a little bit of that offensive production with Marsh out of the lineup, even against the lefty. I know he's not as good, but I think Marsh is still very, very formidable, no matter who's in there. And when they get that guy out of off the mound, the lefty off the mound, and you get a righty in there, Marsh is going to be a lot better the rest of the game too. So that's what I would like to see. But that's all I got on tomorrow.
Yeah, I could see them giving Casty a day off as well, because he hasn't had any yet. He hasn't had any yet. So, I mean, I could see them putting maybe Witt out and right, or Pache out and right, and keeping Rojas in center. And, I mean, maybe not playing Witt at all, because Bohm and Stott actually both got days off pretty recently. So I think they both might play.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly prefer that over one of Bohm or Stott getting days off when they're playing pretty well. But we will see. It should be a fun one tomorrow. Anything else you got on tomorrow or the upcoming series against the Cardinals? Anything else you wanted to touch on with Phillies related?
Do they have a day off after tomorrow?
No, they're not off again until the 18th. So we're going to be going for a little bit here.
So we're probably going to see Stubbs tomorrow then.
Yeah, I would guess so. Day game, he's definitely going to catch.
Yeah.
And unless they save him for Turnbull, but regardless, he's going to catch soon in the next week or two. But I would guess day game tomorrow. They do have a day game on Wednesday as well. So I wonder what they'll do there with some of the guys as well. I would imagine Witt's going to play that game too. There was something. Oh yeah, with us not having a day off until the 18th, Pinto is going to be really important because the bullpen is going to start to wear thin a little bit.
Yep.
I think him just pitching a game or two in between then will be really valuable. So we'll see how he does the second time around.
Yeah, like Ben just said, actually, I think you might be right about that, honestly, because that's what happened last year. It felt like, right? He was catching the fifth starter a lot. I don't remember exactly who it was, but
it wasn't Sanchez, right?
No, it wasn't.
Sanchez. Was it? It wasn't Taiwan, was it?
I don't think so. But he was catching the last starter, whoever it was last year. I remember that for sure. So I mean, that might happen.
Yeah, and with that said, let's get to a few of these comments here, and then we'll talk about the new jerseys, and then we'll hop off. But Sully hopping in here, welcome in. Says, honestly, I think that error Trey had was just mental. Yeah, we didn't even mention this. He was in his head bad after he struck out, but I don't expect him to have as many games this year where he's just beat mentality.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think they actually kind of hit the nail on the head on the broadcast. I think it was Nunez that was running there, or not Nunez.
It was.
It was. Yeah, he kind of was in his head about how fast he was, maybe, because you could see he was just trying to rush it, and ultimately that just ended up costing him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right. That guy was probably going to get down the line. It was going to be even close to try to field it cleanly. That said, I mean, I'm not super surprised either way. Even when Trey first signed here, I didn't expect him to be very good defensively. Now, granted, he has been worse than my expectations, but at this point, I'm kind of not expecting much from him in the field. And as long as he makes the plays he did in the playoffs last year, I'm okay with that. I just need him to tighten up and get better as the season goes on. This year, I just don't want to see them. I don't want to see them as often in August or September. That's my main thing with Trey. So that's kind of what I got on that. Star Wars welcome in says, let's sweep tomorrow. And Sully says, this is just what we have to do against bad teams. We're built to win it all. Winning these types of series is expected, and I'm glad we executed accordingly. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else you can really say other than that. That pretty much sums it up.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Carter says, Alvarado is looking good so far after his horrible first game from what I've seen. And yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about, Drew.
Yeah, feels like he's kind of just getting better and better a little bit.
Definitely. Schwarber needs to up his average this season, as he says he isn't a 198 hitter. Well, I mean, he's already hitting better right now. Before today, he was hitting like 280. So I think he's going to be fine in that department. He doesn't even need to hit 240 like he is right now, in my opinion. I think he just needs to hit 220, 230, and he's going to be very valuable. So I don't have too many concerns there. But if you got anything on that too, feel free. My bad. I didn't mean to skip over you. But
no, I mean, I think Schwarber's definitely working on it because it's evident. I mean, he's working on it. And I mean, he's, like he said, he's not a 198 hitter, and he's starting off this year hitting a lot more singles than he did last year. So, and eventually, I mean, he's going to sell out for power at some points, and that's exactly what you want out of him. But I mean, when there's nobody on base, what you want is him to work on getting on base, not hitting home runs.
Yeah, and don't worry, we'll get to Len Loliai's comment in a little bit. But Neria says Rojas has to stay for life, like everybody said last year. I'm a little confused on the wording of that. I don't really remember a lot of people saying that. So if you could clarify there, let us know. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Drew. But
yeah, I mean, if he means that he has to stay like in the major leagues, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice, but he hasn't proven himself to do that yet. So
yeah, that comment could go either way, majors or minors, honestly. So clarify for us if we're misunderstanding. And yeah, like Mr. Reedy said, I agree. It's time for Johan to go down. They're not going to do it right away, but I think it is inevitable. And I keep saying that, but I just think that's where we're at this point. And like he says, yeah, the bats, they need more insurance than they're getting right now. I would like more than what they're doing, because if we're not playing in nationals the past couple of days, I don't know if 4 or 5 is enough in some of these types of situations, because you're running the risk of it being if it's stays a 4-2 game in that spot, you're running the risk of maybe it being 4-4 at some point too, because there's other teams that do have really good lineups, and even with a good bullpen, you're going to get beat some of the time just because there's really good hitters in the major leagues, just like there's really good pitchers. So, and the base running I don't have much to say on that other than figure it out. I mean, this is not Little League. we are Major League Baseball players. Not me, but they are Major League Baseball players. Enough. Like, this is going on this went on last year, this went on this year, and it goes to the base coaches too. Dusty Wathan had some issues late last season as well. Seems like a great guy, no problems with him, but like, I've really, like, I'm at my breaking point with the base running issues. It's happened long enough at this point. Let's give the Twitter account, did the Phillies make a base running mistake today? Let's give him a break. Let's let him have like a week off. Can we just get a week? Like, just 1 week? That's all I'm asking for. I don't think we can hear you, Drew.
Like you said, it's kind of getting to the point where it's kind of like unbearable, and it's something's got to change at some point. I mean, if this continues, it's kind of inexcusable. I mean, you're a Major League Baseball team. Just get a grip on it and just figure it out.
I mean, it's silly at this point. It's the fact that we're even talking about this. I mean, it really disappoints me because all it takes is just being safe some of the times too. Like, just making this cautious play, the safe play, and they're not doing that half the time. They're just running on impulse. Scott, welcome in. I forgot to get to this comment earlier. Said, should be concerned with the way Turner throws to first base. I mean, I'm not too concerned on that. I think he's fine. Gets it there in time most of the time. But yeah, I mean, obviously his glove, I would say, yes, is a concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's every time he gets the ball hit to him at this point, it's kind of like, please just make the play. I mean, it's concerning, but I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, most of the time he's going to hit enough to make up for his fielding errors, and you just kind of take the good with the bad with him at this point because you can't take Stott off second base and put him there.
No, I don't really love that train of thought because I think you're taking someone away from where they're comfortable just to make Trey comfortable.
Right.
And I don't think that's the right way to go about it, to make Stott more, not that Stott's going to be uncomfortable at short, but you've gotten him used to second base now for so long. And even the year he played short, played a ton of second base because Gene was gone for a couple months too. And he looked great there. So
yep.
I get it. Like, yeah, obviously Trey's not great at shortstop, but Stott is also great at second base. And just because you move Trey to second base doesn't mean he's just going to automatically be better over there. So then you might get a solid Stott at shortstop and maybe like a slightly better Trey at second base, whereas you can probably deal with, maybe a slightly below average glove and Trey at shortstop, who still has range to get there and maybe knock down a ball that could get out of the infield and prevent a run. And then you still get a Gold Glove guy at second base in Stott. I would rather have that. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, and that's exactly what I was saying there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And last comment before we get to the bottom of them too. Sully says Marsh continues to prove he's an everyday guy. I completely agree. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about, Drew. And like you said, Sully, he gives a lot of depth to this lineup too. I mean, having him at the 6-7 spot, usually 7 or 8, but if they end up moving him up at some point, like regardless, having him at the bottom of the lineup, I mean, that is unbelievable depth. There are a number of teams that Marsh would probably be a number 5 hitter on. I feel confident saying that. Not a lot of playoff teams, but a number of teams in the league would love to have Marsh in their lineup hitting the way he's hitting right now. And it's fundamental too. Like you said, the opposite field hitting, I think he's just keeping his head down on the baseball. He's letting it travel into the strike zone, and he's just being smart about it. And I saw a video today, actually. He was using a big leg kick in Anaheim when he was over there, and he's just shortened it up. It looks more like a 2-strike approach. I love that, man. A lot of these kids nowadays, they think you got to drop your shoulder. They think you got to have a big fancy leg kick to generate power. And guys like Marsh, he's not going to hit 40, 50 home runs a year, but he might hit 20 at some point or 15, and he's going to be a really valuable hitter. And he was still a well above 800 OPS guy last year, and he's extremely valuable. And those things have nothing to do, like, that is not the reason he doesn't play every day. It's just because of the lefties. So, just for the kids out there too who are playing, like, you don't need to do all that fancy stuff. Look at a guy like Brandon Marsh. Like, he is a very fundamental hitter, in my opinion.
And also Bryce Harper. I mean, one of the best hitters in baseball. I mean, he goes to a no stride approach at 2 strikes, and he hits some tanks doing it. I mean, you don't need all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neria says, Philly for life. Last year, fans were super excited about him, and I still believe in him. We will see. I mean, again, I've kind of voiced my opinion on him. Drew, anything you want to say on that now that we have some clarification?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I would love to see him be here and never get sent down, but that's just not going to be the reality of it from the looks of it. But I mean, he has a couple weeks here. He could definitely turn the narrative.
Mm-hmm. And even if he does get sent, like, I'm saying he should be sent down, but I'm not saying he's not part of the future for the Phillies. I just think
he definitely is.
right. It's just for the best he gets sent down too. That's just my personal opinion. But and yeah, Scott agrees with us to keep Stott at second base. So with that said, Ben wanted my amazing take on the New City Connect jerseys, but I'm going to let Drew go first because I have a lot of thoughts on it. Drew's a little more neutral than I am, but yeah, I got some opinions on it. So Drew, why don't you go first? I'll save the best for last.
This guy's a hater. Don't listen to this guy. But I mean, I think I already bought one of the hats. Those are
The hats are
incredible.
great.
Yeah, they're top tier. I mean, they're probably the best City Connect hat that there is, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
as soon as I saw them, I instantly went online and bought one. I mean, how could you not? But I mean, the jerseys, the font is definitely the worst part. But I mean, as far as the color scheme goes, I understand why they did it, and it looks good finally. I mean, and that's my opinion. That's my final opinion, I should say. But I mean, I don't hate it, and I have to see it in game before I make a ultimate decision.
Yeah, well, I didn't like the leaks when they came out originally, and when the full uniforms came out, I'm not even kidding. I legitimately thought they looked worse with the full uniform. I will say the light blue into the dark and then meshing into the dark, like matte blue. I think that's the right name, right? Matte blue pants, whatever it is. Regardless.
Navy.
Yeah, the navy pants, the mesh into the navy blue pants. Like, I get it. It is a nice idea, and it looks better that way. But I just think it looks awful regardless. I knew it was going to be the city flag colors for a long time, but now that we're actually here with the jerseys, I'm going to rant about that a little bit because, look, I get it. It is supposed to be representing the city, right? It's not supposed to necessarily represent the people of the city. But for one, I think that's dumb because I haven't had a single conversation with a person in the city of Philadelphia who's ever talked about the city flag or cared about the city flag. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I've never heard anyone talk about the city flag once or that blue and yellow are the city's colors, especially when the Union are the only team that has those colors and they're the soccer team of the city. And they play in Chester. They don't even play in Philadelphia. So that's my issue there with the city flag. I also hate the dark pants. I think they look like a softball jersey. I think it's going to be very annoying to wear them in the summer. I'm glad I'm not going to be wearing them, but if I was a player, I wouldn't want to be wearing dark pants in the middle of summer. I think the font looks like an AC/DC font. I think it looks terrible for a baseball jersey. I get what they were trying to do with the declaration, the document, like the old documents and the historic stuff for the country. I get that. But mixing it with like the Liberty Bell crack theme, it didn't make the font look good in my opinion. I just thought it looked really bad, honestly. And Trey Turner's number literally looks like a question mark. What are we doing? That is not a 7. That's a literal question mark on the back of his jersey. And now he's going to get clowned because he's a question mark in the lineup. I've already seen that one, and I like Trey Turner. I don't want that to happen to him. He kind of danced around it at first too. He's like, well, like I like him, but what's most important to me is that the fans like him. So pretty much saying, well, I want to see what the fans think too. If they like him, that we'll see. I guess I'll deal with them. And I don't know. I just feel like the players aren't super sold on them. It feels like they got paid a bag by Nike to hype them up. They literally got booed at the reveal on Friday at 10 a.m. at the store. Like when the Fanatic came out, he got booed. The Fanatic never gets booed. Granted, I think a lot of people are split on them, and I think that's cool because you're generating a good conversation here. Not that you should by making bad City Connect jerseys, but I do think that it's become an interesting conversation because a lot of people love them, a lot of people hate them, and there's a lot of people who aren't quite sure yet. I imagine those people will go to the love side because they will grow on them. I think if they're open to it, it will grow on them. Look, I've had a lot of Sixers City Connect jerseys that I've started off not liking early in the year. The Boathouse Row ones, I saw them come out and I could not stand them. And then later that day, I came around on them. But usually with those ones, like I come around pretty quick on them. This one, it just didn't happen for me. I tried to like them. I will deal with them. All I care about at the end of the day, if they play well in them, I don't care how ugly they look. If they play well, that is my only concern. If they go 16-0, wear them the whole playoffs for all I care. If they look ugly and they win, fine. I mean, they've certainly had uglier looks before. Well, not uglier, but they've had ugly looks before, and they've won games. So that's all I care about. If they're comfortable in them, if they work well, you can actually see the nameplates and numbers. That's a positive. I'll give it. I do think the hat is great. My only thing with the hat though is, and my buddy Ian, credit to him, he made this point. What other Phillies gear? If I only like the hat, like what other Phillies gear am I going to wear it with? And that's the point. I've seen a lot of people do just like the hat. And that's a valid point in my opinion. Like it just looks weird with a red hoodie under it. Or, I guess you can wear other stuff, but you really have to have the jersey or like a hoodie from the City Connect merch to go with the hat. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I think they're honestly terrible. I don't really think they resemble Philly in any way, but we all knew that this was Nike and that they were going to screw them up. There are worse City Connects, but I was hoping the bar wasn't just going to be better than some of the other bad City Connects. So that's kind of my whole opinion on it. That's my whole spiel. That's my rant. I probably left something out too, which I'll come back to after you talk for a little bit, True. And also the blue. Oh yeah, the blue collar, like it's bright blue. I would like a navy blue collar if we're gonna go blue collar mentality. I don't know. That's just a little gripe I have. But anyway, the love patch does kind of look cool. Those are the only positives I'll give it though, is the ones I just named.
Yeah, I mean, just to like side note this. I mean, Ben, the guy in the chat talking about Hunter's opinion, he hates the powder blues. So
yeah, there you go.
He has no room to talk. I mean, everybody loves the powder blues. I mean, I don't know anybody that says they're terrible, and he's the only person. So, I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything else on the City Connects, honestly. I'm pretty neutral on it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't like the powder blues as much as other people do, but I also don't dislike them as much as Ben. So there's that for you. I like them as an alternate. I think they're a very good alternate, and honestly, like that's how I feel about the Kelly Greens for the Eagles. That being said, I love the powder blues way more than the Kelly Greens. I think the Kelly Greens are way overhyped, and I think the people who want them back full time are really stupid. Now, granted, these are uniforms, so if I just called you stupid right now, like, look, everyone has their preferences. I'm not like it's not like we're talking about opinion for baseball here. I wouldn't call you stupid if we were talking about like JT Realmuto swing or something like that. Like that's when we're actually getting serious. Like uniforms they're solely preferences, right? That's the beauty of it. Everyone's going to have their different opinion on it. Whereas sometimes with baseball and, the sports stuff we're talking about, there can be a right and wrong at times. But that being said, I do like the powder blues as an alternate. I think they're good to be used even more often than a regular alternate, but I just wouldn't want them back full time. And I think the creams get hated on way too much. Like I don't get it. I feel like a lot of people don't like them, and I think they're one of the best jerseys. I will say the shade of cream they're using this year, not a huge fan of that. But the ones they've used in past years, I think they look great.
Yeah. I mean, the Phillies have some of the best jerseys in baseball, quite frankly. I mean, there's not a whole lot of them that I like more. I mean, I think the best City Connects are definitely probably Seattle, because that's just
they're good.
They're super nice, and Texas's are pretty good too, actually. I think, but yeah, as far as MLB jerseys go, I think they're pretty good. The Phillies, just in general.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get through these comments here because I'm curious to hear I don't know if you saw I posted our polls. I think the community tab was like 53% of them loved the City Connects, 47 hated it. And I think that was Twitter. And then on the community tab, it was literally a 50-50 split with almost 200 votes too. It might have changed by now. I would imagine it leans more love, but regardless, I mean, it's really close. Like when you make people choose one side or the other, it could go either way. And I think that is really interesting. Nerio said, that we already got to that one. That was about Rojas. But since I shouted out Nerio, he says, I only see a heavy metal 80s style jersey. Good for a vacation in Miami.
Yeah. I mean, I understand like the metal font thing that you're saying about, but I don't know. I'm not such a hater on them. I mean, I don't mind them. We'll see what they look like in game, like we all are kind of saying at the end of the day. But they might look fine. They might look terrible. You never know.
Yeah. The thing I will say to the font is, like, regardless of the color, I do think they could have saved some face with a better font too. Like that's the first thing people are going to look at as well. And it seems like even the people who do like the uniforms as a whole, it seems like that is the one thing they're like, the font could have been better too.
Yeah. I think the font could have looked good if it was like a cursive type thing, like Baltimore's is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it could have looked really good.
I was hoping for a cursive one before the leaks came out too. I think that would have looked really cool. I think if you had done something, you could have done like maybe gotten rid of the creams and then done like a cream colored jersey, kind of like the Sixers one that was cursive a few years ago. You don't want to completely copy it, but I don't know. Something more with the red, white, and blue with a cursive, I think would have looked really awesome. I think they should have dove into that theme a little bit more, like the historic country theme, like U.S. red, white, and blues type of stuff. But, it is what it is. Chris says the font could have been cooler if it had the Declaration of Independence printed inside of them. That's a cool idea too, and especially in cursive as well. I think something like that could have looked really cool.
Yeah, they definitely missed a little bit on the font for sure, because it just, I don't know, nobody really has said anything that positive about the font. I mean, everything else I've seen some good stuff about, and then seen some bad stuff about. But the font, it seems like it's universally hated.
Yeah. And we got a couple people on my side here. Scott saying, no, they are gosh awful. Just my humble opinion. Well, Scott, you are in the correct opinion train. Welcome to the club. I'm glad to have you here with me. But it's okay. I know everyone who hates them now is going to eventually turn on them. You can take my receipts. You can screen record this, whatever you got to do. I don't think my opinion is going to change anytime soon. So, but for all of you who are saying it right now, who I'm not calling Scott out specifically, but I'm sure some of you will turn to the dark side. Just wanted to put that out there. You're only welcome for so long, but I am anticipating you all leaving me. So, and solely, we got a person on Ben's side. He says, when I saw the leaks, I wanted to hate them. So I just said I hated them. They're growing on me, and I sort of like them a lot now. So point for Team Ben, I guess. There you go. But it is interesting, again, like I said, how many of the fans are either flipping on them or are just completely split on the uniforms. I think it is interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely very polarizing for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're getting a lot of attention right now for sure. So yeah, I would imagine the store didn't necessarily sell out yesterday, but they probably made some sales.
Yeah, I just think the fact that they're like limited for a couple of years is like a big reason why I won't buy a jersey, because I want something that's going to have some longevity to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the NBA ones, they get a new one every single year. So they got to design a new one, and that's kind of giving the Sixers the opportunity. Like this year, they went into more of a Reading terminal theme. So they've kind of gone to explore different parts of the city, different aspects of the city. The first one, I think, was a Rocky themed uniform. So they've gotten to do a lot of different stuff with the city, like Boathouse Row as well. Like I said, it's been interesting. And they did a little bit of the USA theme too there. Obviously, the Sixers are already also red, white, and blue too. So, but with the Phillies, you're going to have a couple of years to kind of think of a new one, figure that out. And I think will there be a gap before they get their next ones, or will it just be right after that?
I'm not honestly sure, to be real with you. So
okay, yeah, so that'll be interesting to look at. But nearest, we already got to that one. He says, I mean, they're nice, just not for an MLB team. Yeah, I mean, it might be a nice concert jersey to wear for your favorite rock band, but unfortunately for the major leagues and for the Phillies, not necessarily the purpose they were going for. So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see, Ben. We'll see. I don't think I'm flipping anytime soon, or at all. So if you can flip me over the next 3 years, best of luck to you. I don't think that's happening. Yeah, there were a lot of people wearing them in DC today, and I was very surprised. Especially, I would guess a lot of them went to the store yesterday before they went down on the trip. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting to see a lot of them down there already wearing the gear. So they're promoting the heck out of them on the broadcast right now. They're probably getting paid a bag to do that, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are getting paid to do it for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I think some people probably, like, even the players that are getting paid to like talk about them. I mean, I'm sure some of them actually like them, and I'm sure some of them hate them. But
yeah, I'm curious to hear Castellanos' opinion on them. I think he would definitely have an interesting thought. So, granted, he's not necessarily in the best performance spot right now to be speaking on new uniforms just yet. But it would be very funny if he went yard for the first time this year in the new uniforms next Friday. So that'll be interesting. But that being said, we are coming up on the hour, Drew. Definitely interesting to talk about the uniforms there for a little bit. Glad I got to rant.
I think we might have lost him
and tell everyone what you should think about the uniforms rather than what you already think. Oh, I think you guys lost me, but I'm glad I got to tell everyone what they should think about the uniforms rather than what they already do think about the uniforms. That's probably incorrect. So I'm glad I was able to enlighten you guys on why the jerseys are not good. But like Sully said, they'll look better when Cassidy wears it. 17 undone buttons rounding the bases after deep fly ball. Yes, I mean, I would hope he goes yard. He didn't go yard after the earthquake, though. So I don't know what was going on there. I mean, we've had an earthquake. We had Good Friday. Like, he's had multiple opportunities to go yard on his usual occasions and hasn't done it yet. So we're still kind of waiting for that. Unfortunately, I don't know if Cassie's going to do it anytime soon. That being said, I mean, anything you want to say, Drew, before we wrap up here?
Yeah, let me show this tweet really quick.
All right.
This is encouraging stuff right here.
Oh yeah, minor league pitcher George Klassen.
Yep, says he has 4 perfect innings and 9 strikeouts, 11 whiffs, and his fastball is like 100 mile an hour. So that's good stuff for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was good. Ben actually sent that in our group chat. So
nice.
Shout out to him.
Yeah. Shout out to Ben. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of encouraging signs from a lot of Phillies prospects. It feels like we have another under the radar guy come up every single year. So not to the big leagues, but just make their way up. So yeah, that's all I got though. I mean, anything else you want to add on?
Nope. I mean, I think you pinned the chat at the top of the top for the Discord. If you're not in there already, come join. I mean, there's always people in there talking Phils. It's a pretty good time. So we're always in there. You know, come hang out. I mean, there's Flyers talk, there's Phillies talk, Eagles, whatever you want. You know, so come hang out in there if you're not already in there.
Yeah, come complain about the Flyers for the next 2 periods as they're down to one of the worst teams in the league right now by 2. So I'm going to go watch the rest of that game angrily. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Scott, Sully, Ben, Nerio, had a lot of people in here. Chris, Mr. Rudy, Star Wars, some guy named Drew. Not sure where he came from, but Sir, Nate, we appreciate all you guys. So thank you guys for watching. God bless y'all. Go Phils. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Have a good one, guys.